Call to order the June 10th, 2020 Goochland County Board of Supervisors Special Meeting. So we have some exciting things today. Glad you're all here. Great to see everyone, even if you have masks. Okay, so first item is Chairman's comments. I don't have much today, just really excited about this opportunity that we have with our broadband partner. I would like to recognize Lisa Dearden, Mike Smith, and Ben Sloan from the EDA, who all, I'm sorry, did I say Mike? Sorry, Mark, who helped facilitate this project. So we thank you for your work there. And we were excited about a new interim county administrator, so you'll have to wait a minute for that. John, did you want to make a few comments at this point?
Yes, Madam Chairman. Just a couple items I wanted to note today. One, Madam Chairman, are you going to take care of the agenda reordering?
I can.
Okay. Just wanted to share with everybody. Well, first of all, welcome back.
Yeah, really. This is great.
We've missed you. This is our first in-public meeting that we've had since the COVID response. We moved to phase 2 as a county government and opened our doors back up to the full public on Monday. We're still managing in groups to 50 or less. We're also limited by social distancing requirements. So you guys fell right into place with the seating here. Thank you very much for helping us maintain those guidelines and processes. But we are really glad. Thank everybody for their patience during this transition. While our doors were shut for a period of time, we were still open and doing business and doing drop-off services. Our Commissioner of Revenue has probably processed more applications than any 5 in the state in the past few months. She has maintained operations. Our Treasurer's Office has been operating. Several weeks ago, we went to our phase 1, which allowed us to have appointments in the building, and we're bringing people back in. And if you see the building, it looks a little bit different. We have different measures in place throughout the building, and just very pleased that everyone's participated, had the patience and understanding, and just glad to be back open. We are in the people business. We're public servants. It's much more rewarding for us when we can see the folks that we're engaging with, and just appreciate seeing everybody back here today. I'm also pleased to share with everyone watching or here or broadly with our public, effective Monday, June 15th, the Goochland County Animal Shelter will be open to the public.
Yay.
We are so excited about that. Everyone knows that we have a partnership with Goochland Pet Lovers. They raised just over $1.25 million to allow us an expansion on that building for animal adoption, and have been a great partner. I hope all of you are as proud of the facility as we are. There's some touching tributes. We paid respect to the old shelter. When you go into the new shelter, Ms. Dixon and all of her efforts and leadership and vision for that, you'll see that's highlighted. But also many of the contributors that made that expansion happy are highlighted there. It's an environment. The old shelter, you may not know this, it served this county for over about 33 years. The lobby of the new shelter is about the size of the old shelter. And so when you get to go into the facility, you'll have a real appreciation for how we have it managed through the public areas. There's staff wings, a staff wing dedicated to Ms. Dixon. Flag has the the spay and neuter clinic for the animals in our care, and then a staff wing that we do all the intake and work there. I do have to say, I'm proud of the leadership Derek Stamey provided on that project for us on a day-to-day basis, but it was a real team effort. Pet lovers, our building officials, our planning folks, our county attorney, our purchasing office, Ms. Tremay. There's been a lot of folks engaged in that project. The board, from Pet Lovers, Dr. Raley Public Schools, our community at large. We know we hit a road bump on that project. The staff actually moved to Central about 18 months ago, and they were supposed to be there for about 6. We worked hard to get through that. As proud as I am to share that with the facility with the public, I'm extremely grateful to the staff that they get a better working environment. And the animals may not want to leave. So it's a beautiful facility, and we're proud to share it. Interesting enough, during times of COVID, our adoption rates have been at all-time highs. There's been periods that we actually had 0 adoptable animals because the shelter was cleaned out, which does make a move a little easier when you don't have 50 animals to transport. When you go in Monday, the adoptable animals will be available. There's plenty of room and capacity opportunities for many years to come to serve this community, and just really proud that get to leave with that project completed. For those that can't make it out to take a walk through the building or take a tour, on Monday we will be releasing a virtual tour that folks can access, and actually there's a narrated tour that you can go through and learn about the different wings, and then there is literally a 360 tour that you can walk yourself through the building and see what you want to see virtually. And so really proud of the efforts to get that done. We still have the social distancing requirements in that facility and limited capacity, but certainly we have enough open hours that you can get in at different times, and I'm not too worried about the capacities there. But having too many people looking at cute dogs and cats for adoption is not such a bad thing. And so we look forward to sharing that facility with the public. Obviously, we've lost some ribbon cuttings more. So we actually opened the business center while COVID's going on. We're opening the animal shelter next week. We've been working with a historical center with the Historical Society. That renovation's basically done. And they'll be moving into that shortly. The registrar, who is moving from their office here, is moving out back to what was the old extension, well, most recently the extension office. That has been renovated, and most likely end of June, early July will be open to the public as well. And so a lot of projects have come to fruition here at the end. The animal shelter is probably the biggest one, but a lot of other projects, including a trail in Hidden Rock Park that we did in partnership with Goochland Rotary, will be open, and an additional dog park in Hidden Rock Park. Our second dog park is coming to conclusion here probably in next week or two, be available to the public as well. So there's been a lot of work going on, a lot of things that we're proud to do on behalf of the public and share, but I think we're proud of them all, and so look forward to sharing those with you. I may not be here for a lot of those ribbon cuttings, but we'll be in spirit and heart, and just appreciated all the opportunity to be a part of that, and thank the board for your investments in those projects. We've been able to do that with our community and with contributions, and groups like Pet Lovers and Rotary and other charitable donors in our community made a lot of those projects come to fruition, and so we're just very proud of all of those efforts. Madam Chairman, that's all the county administrator comments I have today.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Badesky. Due to an unavoidable delay, we're going to rearrange the new business items. Our announcement of the Goochland Broadband partnership is going to be shifted to the end. If there's no objection from the board, do that. They're not here. So we will begin with the consideration of a resolution appointing an interim county administrator. So here we go. Whereas the position of county administrator will become vacant due to the resignation of John A. Badesky on June 30th, 2020, and whereas the Board of Supervisors has initiated a recruitment to hire a new county administrator, and whereas the board desires to appoint an interim county administrator to manage and administer the affairs of the county effective July 1, 2020, until such time as a permanent county administrator can be appointed by the board. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors hereby appoints Derek Stamey to serve as of July 1, 2020 as interim county administrator and clerk of the board upon such terms and conditions as agreed upon by the board and the interim county administrator. The interim county administrator is hereby vested with and exercise all of the powers and duties set forth in state law as directed by the Board of Supervisors. That's the resolution, Board. Can I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, I move we adopt the resolution as presented.
Okay, thank you. Have a second?
Second.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Do roll call, Mr. Badesky?
Mr. Lumpkins?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Spoonhour?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Ms. Lachelet?
Yes. Okay, so congratulations, Mr. Stamey. Would you like to make just a couple comments?
Well, good morning. Madam Chair, members of the board. First and foremost, I would like to express to you all what an honor and privilege it is to be able to serve the Board of Supervisors as well as Goochland County in the role of interim county administrator. In my time here, going on over a decade, I've come to know this place as a wonderful county to serve in public service, and we have an unbelievable group of staff, talented, dedicated individuals, and I look forward for the next few weeks to work collectively with our staff, our constitutional officers, and our counterparts in the school system to keep this county steady and on the right track as you all work through the process of determining who the next county administrator will be. So with that, I thank you for your support and trust during these next few weeks. And we will make every effort to continue to serve our citizens to the best of our ability. I can assure you of that. We will put forth our best effort. So thank you.
All right, welcome. All right, congratulations. That doesn't mean you're relieved of any of your current duties. You understand that, right? Okay, but thank you. The next item of new business is to authorize the county administrator to approve a change order of up to $268,000 with Blakemore Construction for construction of the Bridgewater roads. Mr. Badesky?
Madam Chairman, thank you. Just over a week ago, we had a very robust discussion about the concerns we had with the completion of the Bridgewater subdivision and some challenges, substantial challenges we've been having with VDOT on getting those roads completed. At that meeting, options were shared with the board and discussed, and the board ultimately made a motion, and it was adopted to appropriate the funds you see here for the completion of those roads. What we neglected to do at that time was also to award the actual contract. We talked about Blakemore, who has done the earlier work, being the completion contractor in part because their work would be warranted as if their prior work would be warranted as they finished it out. We're not asking you to change any of the funding appropriation from the last meeting. That is still consistent with what we had done. However, today, and we just neglected to do it last week, we shared with you Blakemore would be the finished contractor. However, we neglected to award at that time. I will tell you how that came up is after the appropriation was made last week, we actually reached out to Blakemore. They were going to start today and would have been done in about 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, I believe. And we realized that we didn't take the formal action to actually award the contract. And so today, at the board's discretion, just ask the consideration of the contract award for the funds you had already appropriated last week.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Badesky. Any comments, thoughts from the board on this issue?
Madam Chair, I move that we authorize the county administrator to approve a change order of up to $268,000 awarded to Blakemore Construction for completion of the roads in the Bridgewater subdivision.
All right. Thank you, Mr. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments at this point? No. I'd just like to say this has been most difficult. It's been a very difficult decision that we've made. We did make it last week. This is just a wrap up and a final, kind of put the bow on it, this final detail. We've gotten a lot of comments from citizens about this. Some like it, some don't. But the decision has been made, so we're going forward, and this is to award the contract. Do we need to do a roll call on this, Mr. Badesky?
I believe we did on last week, maybe best.
No, just, okay, all right. So-
Technically, you probably don't have to. We normally do these on consent.
Right,
When we did the
right.
budget approval, we did do a roll call last week.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so there's no further discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Aye. Okay, so we have one no, 4 yes. All right, so that concludes that item. All right, so our guests are, okay, good. All right, so Mr. Badesky, you want to begin this process for us? Thank you.
Yes, Madam Chairman, members of the board, public. We, as a community, have been discussing broadband needs for many years. This board last September took an action to outline 10 steps that we were going to work towards to achieve additional broadband expansion in this community. But even prior to that September meeting, you may recall, in partnership with our EDA, and I'd like to recognize again the EDA members that are here, the chairman, Lisa Dearden, Mark Smith, and Ben Sloan. Thank you for being here with us today. In partnership with the EDA, we actually approved a tax rebate incentive for what was considered phase 1 of their project. You're going to hear more from the team, and I don't want to steal all of their thunder today. But I also want to recognize that, especially in these times as we've been dealing with COVID responses and moving towards more teleworking for our employees, our residents teleworking from their businesses and jobs, and our students who have had to transition and do some online learning. I think our schools, and I'd like to recognize Dr. Rayleigh here with us today and Ms. Horn from the school board. They have worked very creatively to try to make sure that there was a learning environment to finish the current school year. And as you may have heard yesterday, the governor has announced some potential phasing with Dr. Lane on how schools may actually open in the fall. I think all those issues combined, we've had many of our residents that were doing telemedicine kinds of things while the pandemic has been going on and will potentially even continue. Goochland, it is very clear that we have a substantial number of our residents without access to overall adequate broadband. And whenever I use that term, I don't use it lightly. It's the federal government really defines that as 10 megabytes and above speed. Many of our residents have no service. Even their cell service alone does not meet their demands. And as you try to do any kind of streaming, it's just next to impossible. We recognize there is a need. This board had set aside some funding to continue to try to incentivize broadband expansion in the county. I will say since, and at the time we did the last expansion, we had seen a number of additional companies show interest in Goochland County. Mr. Evan Weiner from Hosted Backbone is here with us today. He, particularly in the Crozier area, has done substantial expansion for those residents and has plans to continue to doing more expansion. We're very pleased with the work that he is doing. Other companies, Mr. Korn, one of our residents, and his company BOIP have done some service expansion in our county, all of which we're very pleased to have the additional interest. One of the things we have to look at as a county whenever we get into partnership with folks is there's a lot of things we have to look at because we have a very diverse set of residents in our community. What are their demands? How do they have access? What are the equity issues with that access? How do we make sure that there's affordable services provided to individuals? How do we make sure that they have some redundancy and consistency in their service? And as we look at additional partnerships in the county, we have to take those things all into consideration with the individuals that we're partnering with. This board, not long ago, had the pleasure to join Central Virginia Electric Co-op in their announcement of their Phase 1 USDA expansion grant, Reconnect grant, and which is going to serve, with their Phase 1, over 800 customers in Goochland County. And that's primarily on the west end of our county. We're very pleased with that investment and expansion. Today, we have to recognize there was substantially more residents in our county that did not have access to adequate broadband services. Today, we are here to share with you a much broader partnership with Central Virginia Co-op off of their co-op grid. And so I'm not going to steal the thunder of the team that's here today, but it will provide substantial additional access over a number of years to Goochland County residents in our unserved areas of our county. We have an issue of unserved and underserved. Underserved are those that have at least one solid opportunity to access service, but we have a substantial amount of area in Goochland County that is not covered. What will be shared with you today, we believe, will meet approximately 75 to 80% of the unserved areas of Goochland County. That is a massive project. It's a massive partnership that could really deliver for our residents, especially many of our rural residents that are quite distant. This is a project that what we are sharing with you today is a partnership and a grant application for a next round of USDA funding. And so I'm very pleased today to share with you and introduce the team that we have with us today. Mr. Gary Wood, thank you. And he came a long way. So folks were wondering how he got stuck in traffic in Goochland today. He was stuck out in 29 coming in to visit us today. And so, Mr. Wood, thank you for being here today. Also with him is Melissa Gay, Communications and Member Services Manager for CVEC, and Dennis Reese, General Manager of Firefly Fiber Broadband, the actual provider of the service that we will have here today. And so, Mr. Wood, thank you so much. We have very much so valued the partnership with you and your team. Appreciate the interest you have in serving Goochland County residents and look forward to ongoing partnerships. And so we'll come back at the end after his presentations and allow some questions and wrap that up. Thank you very much.
First of all, thank you, and it's rare when you live in a rural area to get in a traffic jam. On the other hand, any of you who have lived in rural areas and you know there's one road to a lot of places, once you're stopped, you're stopped. There had been a tractor trailer who had made a bad decision about trying to get across 29 and got himself into a position where he was blocking both lanes. It took a while to get him straightened out. Let's move through this, though. Don't worry about my morning. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to come talk to you about our projects. I'm going to give you a little quick background just to refresh, talk about all of the projects we have, talk specifically about the new grant application, and then answer any questions. Before I do that, I'd really like to take a chance to thank the administration at Goochland County and the board and the Economic Development Authority. You guys have been the best partners by far as being able to work with you, getting input from you, having your support. I really appreciate it. That is absolutely critical. When you're trying to solve rural broadband problems, it's not one company. I applaud the efforts of all the other providers. It's not one technology. It's not one group. We've had that problem for a while, and it's going to take all of us to fix it. So let me tell you a little bit about where we are. First, the co-op. I won't spend too much time on these slides. We wanted to put it on here mainly for record-keeping purposes in case you look back and some people aren't familiar with the co-op. We're a not-for-profit electric company that serves rural areas. It was formed in 1937. We were formed because there was a need for an essential utility in rural areas that wasn't being met by the market. Sounds very similar to today. We have, over the years, established a pretty good reputation for service to our members, for keeping very competitive rates and doing a good job providing that electric service in the areas that we serve. We touch parts of 14 counties. We're about 37,000 accounts. If you're looking for a reference point, Dominion has 2 million accounts. So the smallest electric co-op in the state has 5,000 accounts. So we are 7 times as big as the smallest, but not nearly as big as the big guys. We also serve very sparsely populated areas. So we have 4,600 miles of line to serve those 37,000 accounts, and we're mostly residential. We're outside all of incorporated towns and those types of things. We're about $90 million a year in revenue. $3 to $5 million in margins typically. If you do the math real quick, you can see that our goal is not to drive profit and deliver to shareholders. Our shareholders are our members. We try to keep the rates as low as possible. We can't lose money, but we keep a really thin margin, and then that's returned back to the members. We're a medium-sized company, 107 employees. Because we're mostly technical and trade, we tend to pay well, so we have a positive impact on all of our communities in multiple ways, including the number of contract employees who work for us on a regular basis doing vegetation management, some construction work, vehicle maintenance, all types of things. We use the community to support us. We started Firefly Fiber Broadband, which Dennis is the general manager of now, when we started this fiber project, because in Virginia, rural electric co-ops are not allowed to sell internet service, retail internet service. Electric co-ops are allowed to own a subsidiary that can engage in any legal business in Virginia. They set up that structure just to keep arm's length separation and make sure that electric rates are not supporting other endeavors. So this way they can track the funds. So we have the Firefly Fiber Broadband set up. Most of our employees there are working out of our Palmyra office. They have the same board of directors right now. We may eventually swap out some directors on that board. We've got 16 employees. We'll be growing to somewhere between 25 and 30 over the next couple of years. We're growing fairly fast. We just connected our 2,800th customer, or either this week we'll be connecting them or they've been connected. We are an internet service provider. That's all we do. We offer voice over IP as a phone service. We do that because some of the grants require us to do that. But we're not a cable company. We're not doing other things. We do internet service. That's really our focus, that and telephone. In the Central Virginia territory, Central Virginia Electric, the electric co-op owns the fiber. We build it, own it. We lease it to the subsidiary. They deliver internet. When we step outside the electric service territory, Central Virginia Electric cannot own fiber. So Firefly has to build the fiber, own it, and operate it. We'll talk a little bit about how that might impact some things a little later. But inside the territory, co-op owns. Firefly has full access. They lease 100% of it. Outside, Firefly actually owns it. All right. So our project started because of the electric co-op needs. You've seen these slides before. Again, I won't spend too long. The electric co-op needs high-speed communication really at every point on our system. It will help us deliver better electric service. We can't afford to build fiber just based on the benefits that the electric customers will get. But by building a fiber system, allowing the members to use it for internet, that pays for the system that benefits all electric customers, whether you want internet service or not. So that was the driving force really behind starting this project, the project on the co-op system. And that project, it was a 5-year project. We are working, by the way, you're hearing this before my board hears it. I've got a board meeting next week, and we're going to talk to them about cutting our 5-year schedule back to 4. We're working on a plan to move faster. I have said since we started that we would move as fast as possible. It took a little while to get up to the speed that we wanted to be at, and we've reached that now and gotten a little faster, and now we're working on a plan to take the next 3 years and build it out in 2. If things work well, we will have all Central Virginia electric co-op members will have access to broadband internet before the end of 2022, which is a pretty aggressive schedule. We think we're going to be able to do it. We're building really 3,500 miles of fiber. I talked about a few more miles on the total electric system. That's because some of that is the last loop over to the house. When we think about building fiber, the 3,500 miles gives us the whole backbone. We'll build a little more than that if you count those extensions to the houses. That's why there's a mismatch in the numbers. It's a $120 million investment just to build the Central Virginia electric fiber. We spent about $30 million last year. We're going to spend another $35 million this year. We're putting a lot of money into the fiber. The way that the project works, we are already starting into our third year of what we call make-ready work, where we move things around on the pole. While we're building fiber in the areas that we've just started into the kind of second year of construction, well, about a third of the way through the second phase of construction there. So there are a lot of moving parts. At any given time, we have between $10 and $20 million worth of open contracts and work orders. That's a lot of float, a lot of challenge for our folks to manage the cash flow and those types of things. A lot of strange things that we have learned when you're trying to build this fast out in rural areas, but we're making it work. We're getting a lot of work done, and that's why we feel now we can shorten the next couple of years, or shorten the schedule over the next couple of years. All right, this is just a map of our entire service area, and you can see Goochland up in the upper right-hand corner a little bit. The white lines on this are county lines. The kind of mustard-colored Interstate 64 you can see along there going along the northeast side, and then you can see the white county line for Goochland, and then we have our substations labeled. That's just to give you a kind of a flavor of our overall service area. We've talked about this on the co-op side. The co-op will own the fiber. Firefly will sell internet service. We're building about 15 to 20 miles per week and adding about 100 to 150 new accounts per week. We're actually adding about 80 to 100 now. We'll be moving up to close to 150 in order to get that faster pace. Here's what we sell, and it's really simple. This is our entire pricing sheet. We sell 2 services off internet. 100 megabit service, $49.99 a month. Gigabit service, $79.99. There's symmetrical speed up and down. There's no data caps. Simple concept. Voice over IP, we sell for $34.99. If you already are getting internet service, we'll give you a $5 discount. The only installation cost for members of the co-op for the piece built on co-op lines is a $100 installation fee. And if you sign up while we first build it out, we waive that. So you have no cost. We have no contracts. We have no exit fee. It's a really simple idea. We're here to serve our members. They own us. So that's the way we've set it up. So in Goochland, we have 3 different ways that we're building. So we have that first electric co-op piece. That is in that first 5-year timeline. We've helped to fund that with Connect America funds, and we're going to show you how some of this overlaps, and with the first round of Reconnect grants. We will also be seeking money in the RDOF auction coming up this year from the FCC, which is Connect America Fund under a new name with areas that weren't covered before. And we've gone back in for another application on the Reconnect grant program with RUS. So again, there's no one funding source, the same way there's no one group that can do this. And we're looking at multiple ways to help get that money in. Here is the electric distribution system. You can see the little lines at the north side of Goochland is our Shannon Hill substation, and those purple lines that come down, that's the area that we serve and that will be connected when we build the Shannon Hill station out. And at the bottom is the red lines coming from the Cartersville substation across the James River. The James River, that Cartersville substation we're building this year. We have not started the fiber construction. We have completed most of the make-ready work, so it's underway. I will tell you that we're working through a couple of challenges with keeping on schedule at Cartersville. Getting permit crossings for the James River. It can be a little bit of a challenge anyhow. When everybody's working remotely, that gets amplified. At one point, the Corps of Engineers told us that they had stopped working on all applications because of RDOF and remote work. That's restarted. there are two different ways we're getting permits, one where we cross into Goochland, another where we cross up near Columbia to get from Fluvanna over into Cartersville, which is where we bring the light in for the fiber. That one's taken a little longer. We're still pushing to stay on schedule, but that's something we'll keep you up to date as things change. The plan is to build Cartersville out this year. So, and we're looking at options in case we can't get across. But we're managing that like we manage 100 different pieces of this project every day. There are things that are moving, and permits and railroad permits and road permits and all types of things. We're also buying another piece of property over in Cumberland County because our substation lot wasn't large enough to put the new communications hut on. The first piece of property we found has been determined to have wetlands. So we're looking at expanding that or going, so again, those are our problems, but sometimes when people ask, well, what's going on? Why haven't we seen more? We're working every day, and there are a lot of hiccups, and we work through them and keep moving. We will have all of the Central Virginia area built out if we reach our goal by 2022. All right, this is the bigger picture. So the blue areas on this are the Central Virginia Electric Co-op area, and you can see Goochland County there. The green areas are where we sought and received Connect America Fund award money. So we have money and we have a commitment to build in the green areas, that light green. The yellow area is the area covered by the new Reconnect application. That's a substantial portion of Western Goochland. The numbers sometimes don't look as big when you think about total households in the county, and you look at this and you say, well, maybe there's 2,600 or 2,800 total households served by all of these projects, but it covers those households that are in that sparsely populated area. We are going to serve everybody in those areas. So the blue areas, Central Virginia territory, we're committed to finish by 2022. The Connect America Fund areas, we have a 6-year build-out requirement that started June of last year. So we could go through 2025 to get it connected. Part of what will make the decision on how quickly we can build is how quickly we can get some funding to fill in around those areas. So that's part of what the Reconnect Fund does. That helps us get fiber into those areas and will speed up building in Connect America Fund areas. The Reconnect grant, the yellow area, is an application that we put in this year. We've gone through a 45-day period when any incumbent provider could tell RUS that they have service available in that area. If they do, that's the first step. The second step is RUS will have field personnel come to the county and to the other counties. We also touch parts of Powhatan and Cumberland, and they're going to check to see if service is available at speeds faster than 10.1. They're going to ask the county staff. They're going to ask people in the community. They're going to ask the service providers. All you need to do is be honest because there's no service out there. If less than 10% of the homes have service, it qualifies for this grant. I feel very, very comfortable that no more than 10% of people have that service out there. So that's area covered. The county worked with us, the county staff, on this. In fact, we expanded a little bit and changed the territory to cover areas that the county staff told us did not have service. So they were very helpful to us because this is off of our electric system. We had no other way of knowing. So that little area that's just under the name Sandy Hook, that little yellow area, we didn't have covered at all. And I forget the road names around there, but the county staff said, here's an area we've been trying to solve. We've got service all around it, but this donut hole doesn't have it, so we put it in. That's just one example. So here's a little bit of talk about what we're spending on it. $2.8 million for the 800 accounts on the electric system. Off system, the combination of Connect America Fund areas and the Reconnect grant is about $12 million investment for 1,887 homes and businesses. If we get the Reconnect Award, which they intend to announce this fall, or they have told us November, December, they hope to make announcements, we will be able to build that out by 2023, the year after we finish the other. We have some contingencies planned in case we don't get that award, to seek other grants, other ways of trying to get the funding to build in those areas. Here's a little more detail. The Connect America Fund in Goochland County alone, we received $1.2 million. We actually get that in the form of, it's a check every month, not per county. We get one large check. The portion that is Goochland is about $10,000 a month. We get it for 10 years. That's the way that that money comes in. It's not quite like a grant that's up front. It really helps support those first few years when you're trying to get everybody connected. RUS Reconnect grant from 2019 that we announced earlier is $1.9 million, touches 583 locations, all within Central Virginia's electric territory, and is half grant, half loan. Then the piece we applied for this year is $7.2 million. It's a 75% grant for the total amount built. Firefly has to come up with the other portion, the $2.4 million. It's 1,547 additional locations, none of which are on CVEC system. So these are all, I think they're probably served by Dominion as far as electricity. Then we also have the incentive from Goochland County, which we appreciate, that we're using to help finance it, and loans. And we're going to talk in a little bit about that portion at the bottom, the new Reconnect grant, the 25% that is not funded by the grant, and Firefly has to come up with, and I'll touch on that here in just a minute, then take some questions. In fact, on this slide, there are a couple of places where we can still work together. One, we're talking with the county administration about potential locations for our fiber hut. We need a hut with the electronics and the lasers that is somewhat centered in that new territory that we'll be serving. We'd like for it to be in an area that's already been developed, where if we can share a parking lot, we don't park anybody there. We just need to be able to pull up to it when there's a problem. So we'd rather not pay for parking and new development if we can find a place just to put a 10 by 24 precast hut. And we're working with the county administration on that. Secondly, we'd like to talk to the EDA again. Thank you for all you did the first time, and we're coming back. Because Firefly does need to finance their piece, their 25% of the piece that the Reconnect grant for 2020 will not fund. So it's about $2 million. I forget, 2.3 something. We have a couple of options, but we'd like to talk to the county about it and see if the EDA would be interested in and be able to provide an economic development loan that helps fund that we'll be paying back, obviously, and give us an opportunity to partner one more time with the county. One of the challenges for Firefly is owned by the co-op. So from that perspective, they are very reliable as a credit source. They also have a great business model, and we'll go through the business plan with the EDA so they can see that. So they're very dependable as far as a credit risk. But they only have 2 years of financials, and in the first year they lost $1 million because we didn't have anybody connected. We were starting a company up. In the second year we lost $1.5 million because we spent $35 million and got our first folks connected. We're going to probably be in the black this year. We were first forecast to take about 7 years, so it's moving quicker. But going to someone like an EDA who sees the value to the community and understands that dynamic versus going to a bank and putting those balance sheets up helps. So that's why we'll be talking. Then we're looking at opportunities to get to that business park along I-64. We know you need internet service in there. We're looking at some pricing, and we'll look at potential ways to help finance that. So those are things we're still working on. With that, I've rattled on for a while. Let me stop and ask, is there any questions?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wood. It's pretty
Let
awesome.
let me make one more pitch.
absolutely.
If anyone in the community would like to have input into the Reconnect grant, if they Google RUS Reconnect, the site will come up, they have a full Reconnect, and under Contact Us, any person can put in their name, address, and talk about the need for rural broadband. They group those by the areas where there are grant applications. So it never hurts to have a few more people trickle in and say, yes, we need it in Goochland County. Give the grant to Central Virginia Services and Firefly. Help us. And I will get you the address for that so you can put it up.
Yeah, that'd be
All right.
great.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very, very much.
Madam Chairman, can I just add, Mr. Wood,
Absolutely.
thank you for adding that part, because it's, okay, now what? We're sharing what could be some exciting news for the community. It is the yellow service area, which is the majority of what I said earlier, is dependent upon additional funding approval. So we will post the information for individuals in our community to help provide some outreach and advocacy for that grant. Our federal legislators have been supportive of this application and partnership in the past, and so we want to continue to ask for their support. You heard me mention 75 to 80% of the unserved area earlier. And I just want to be clear, Mr. Drumright, and I want to recognize Mr. Drumright has been our lead on this from day one and has done a substantial set of legwork and just advocacy on behalf of the county. I'm really proud of all the work Paul has done and will continue to do on behalf of rural broadband for Goochland. Just to give you a little more perspective, the total number of locations that these grants that were shared with you is just shy of 2,700 customers. In that, it's over 300 plus individuals in our community with either brick and mortar or business licenses to operate out of their home. This will be a substantial benefit to those individuals who have higher demands. Also, to give you a little bit more perspective, they would also just approximately cover about a quarter of the residents of Goochland County, based on current rooftops. So it's a substantial investment, substantial effort. There are some dependencies, so we don't want to oversell the opportunity here, but the partnership that we were able to identify, the commitment from CVEC, it's been important. Our residents, I get questions all the time of what are you doing on our behalf? Why isn't the county operating this? We've made investments to do these kinds of partnerships and efforts. Probably the number one issue I hear about, especially during COVID, has been probably broadband more than anything.
Yep.
And so we've been making the time and investments to identify solid partners and efforts. So while our doors may have been closed, there's been a lot of legwork done in partnership with CVEC and other providers to create these opportunities, and we'll continue to do so as we move forward. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you, Mr. Podesky. Anyone on the board have comments or questions for Mr. Wood or any of their team?
I do, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Mr.
Spoonhour.
Wood, thank you so much for your presentation and for working with us. I just want to make sure I'm clear. So the areas in white that are identified, so sort of to the left of where it says Sandy Hook and above Goochland, those were deemed to currently have coverage?
Yes.
Okay, and if we think otherwise, we should get folks to,
Well, it's a little late for this application, but we'd be glad to continue working. We don't think anywhere there's a stop until we get everyone served.
Okay.
But those are areas where the incumbent provider on their FCC reports have claimed that service is available. And we had enough to do without going into those areas and trying to prove they didn't have service. So we worked in the other areas.
but would it still be beneficial for folks to reach out
Yes.
and through that portal yours?
It would help to let them know, and if that there's a way, if we can get this grant, which we'll know this fall, and we can get in here, as we start making contact, we'll look for ways to move off of this area once we have this built, if there are other areas that still need it.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Lumpkins?
Quickly, thank you again. This was great, and we're excited about the partnership. And thank you for the price sheet. I think those of us that are with the incumbent providers would love them to adopt something like this pricing. Question that, I only have one question, and this is a lot of information that's very helpful, very clear. But something that I think is on the minds of those of us that have been dealing with this for a while, you're up to 2,800 customers. I'm curious is what is your, I would think of like an absorption rate, but 2,800 customers. How many could hook up? In other
Well,
words, what are you getting in terms of people signing up when you say, hey, we're here?
These are actually what we would call passings or locations where the service is available. That 2,800 is where it's available. From that, we're seeing anywhere from, it was about 50%. More recently, we've seen closer to 60% of people take the service when we first go past. Our original business plan was based on 35% signed up with the first 2 years. So that's part of the reason we're going to be in the black a little quicker. We had anticipated we would get to between 60 and 70% eventually, and it looks like we're going to get there a little quicker.
That's great.
So that's good.
That's impressive, yeah. And probably makes you happy, I think.
It does. It really, there's no better indication of how bad the need is than when you first show up to have that number of people sign up. Because there are still others who are signing up in areas where we've completed work. We're seeing another, just regular signups as people come off contracts with satellite providers or cell phone providers or other things and move to our service. But it's, there's an incredible need out there, certainly. So, and one other question that that Paul and John had asked the other day was about the cost for the service to individual customers. Would there be extension costs and things? On the co-op side, we don't have that plan. If we get the Reconnect grant, then we won't have any of those costs in any of these areas. We'll make the service available up to the house without additional cost in the areas that we're going to cover. When we start going outside of this, when the other areas you talked about, then we'll have to see if there are other grant funds to help offset that. If not, that's where we may have to start asking customers to chip in a little bit, depending on what the economics look like. But if we get this grant, there won't be any cost to customers to have it available when we're in the area.
And that's all the way to the house.
All the way to the house. Yeah.
Sweet.
All right.
One other question, Mr. Wood. The pricing that you've given us here in your presentation, that's the current CVEC pricing, right, for CVEC customers. Is that also similar to what you're proposing? Okay, I just wasn't clear with that.
Yes, ma'am. Good question, and that's what we proposed in the Reconnect application for Firefly in the non-central. We intend to treat members of CVEC and customers, all the subscribers of Firefly, the same as much as possible. We think it's really important when you're in rural areas, understanding the demographic there, that we hit that $50 mark to get our basic service. That stretches some families as it is, and we just don't see a way we can provide a service that's more expensive than that and really meet the needs of folks. So.
I think that's a good point.
All right.
And my district is the western part of the county, and it is the #1 issue I hear is internet service and cell phone service, and it's been exacerbated, as you said, with the COVID issue. So it's a big deal.
Right. One of the other things we've found with this is as we move through rural areas and make the fiber available for retail, we've had several contacts with cell phone providers who would like to expand coverage but need better backhaul, which means they need fiber in the area. And once we're there, that may give some more opportunities for them to expand their service. So that's just a side benefit.
Yeah,
We'll take it.
that's a good one. That's a good one. Okay, well, thank you very much. We're pretty excited about this. Ready for you to get started ASAP. Okay. Is there any other business before the board? No? Okay. All right, hearing none, we will adjourn to Tuesday, July 7th at 2 p.m. for the regular meeting and 6 p.m. for the public hearings. Thank you all for coming. Really great seeing you.